should we let our kids question us? I mean, it's really easy just to throw out the answer, because I said so. Because I said so, that's why. But should we allow them to question us? Should there be boundaries of you can go this far but no further? Should there be things you can ask questions about and things you shouldn't ask questions about? Should there be times to ask questions and times not to? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. So welcome. Let's get into it. I should begin by telling you a little bit about my youngest son. That boy loves to ask questions. I've never in my life met somebody who asks as many questions as Arlo. Arlo asks questions about everything. Like, you can be reading him a story and he will interrupt you because he wants to know what a word means or what that thing is. And often those questions will derail you so much that you forget what book you were even reading. But are questions always something we should do? Do we actually want our kids questioning everything we do? Do we actually want our kids questioning the things we say, the commands we give them, the things we tell them to do? Do we actually want that? Well, if we're honest with ourselves, we've got to realize we're not infallible. The only infallible being in the universe is God. And God actually not only seems to allow for questions, but he encourages them. God actually seems to reward those who ask questions. I mean, you think of Abraham. God comes and visits him and tells him, I'm going to destroy these two cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham, realizing it's God, pushes back. Like, what's the number? And he seems to bargain with God until they come to a number that they can both agree on. Hey, if you can find this many righteous people, the cities are saved. Also, Moses questions God's judgment. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but like here, Moses is coming down from Mount Sinai with the 10 Commandments in hand, and he hears below the children of Israel. God says, hey, this is what they've been up to while you were up here. How about we just destroy them completely, totally, wipe them out, and then I'll start over with you. And Moses, instead of saying, that's fair, God, we gave him a fair shot. No, Moses pushes back and he says, no, God, that's not who you are. That's not the God that you are. Moses questions God, and God takes Moses' side. Then you think of Jacob. Jacob, who later became called Israel. Why Israel? Israel means one who contends with God, one who wrestles with God. He received this name for wrestling with God. And what I love about that is not only did he receive this name, but the children of Israel were then named after him. The children of one who wrestles with God. They could have been named the children of Abraham, the one that God began this covenant relationship with. That would have made sense. And I think nobody would argue with that. Could have been named the children of Isaac, the one who was supposed to be the sacrifice, and instead a ram was found to stand in his place. You could have made a beautiful case for that, calling them the children of Isaac. But instead they're called the children of Israel. Jacob of the three is not the most glorious. He was a deceiver. He wasn't a terribly great guy all the way through. But yet, one who wrestles with God. It's almost like God seems to encourage us to question him, to wrestle with him, to ask, why? Isaiah tells us, come, let us reason together. God invites you to ask questions. So as parents, who are we to say, no, I've got this all figured out because I said so is enough? It doesn't cut it. If the God of the universe doesn't treat us that way, then we don't want to raise children who are that way, do we? And so it's important for us to allow our kids to question us. It's important for a few different reasons. First of all, it's important because it helps them understand not only what we're asking of them, but the why. Why are we asking this? It helps them get a deeper understanding when they ask questions. And so questions are important for their learning. But questions are also important for another reason, and that is they hold us accountable. Because we're not infallible, because we don't get everything right, because we don't understand absolutely everything, we need to be questioned. We need people to push back on us. I think of King David, who was approached by Nathan the prophet. The king was called out by a prophet. We sometimes as parents, we need to be called out. We need to raise children who, when we're doing something that's unreasonable, something that's wrong, they're able to question us. They feel free to question us so that we can also be steered when we need to be. Now, I know what you're saying, because I've got two little boys, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And if you allowed them to always ask questions, they would derail life. There has got to be some kind of boundaries, some kind of limits. And I understand that. You don't have to convince me of that. So the policy we have in our home is you obey first and then ask questions, making sure that there's always that room for questions. We'll always take the questions, but there are some times where if you're running out into the road and I say stop, you don't keep running and ask questions. You stop and ask the questions. So obey first and ask questions. But no matter what, we want to raise critically thinking children. We want to raise children who aren't mere reflectors of other people's thoughts. We want to raise children who understand the why behind the things we're asking them, so that as they become teenagers, young adults, they're able to set those boundaries for themselves, and they don't need their moms and dads always there to set the boundaries for them. We want to raise children who are equipped to know how to set those boundaries. And because these are the kinds of kids we want to raise, we've got to allow them to question us, because those are the parents we want to be. We've got to allow them to question us. And sometimes your kids are going to ask you questions that are going to make you stop and think about your own boundaries. Sometimes your kids are going to ask you questions that you're going to have to wrestle with. But if we want to be part of the spiritual Israel, if we want to raise kids who are children of Israel, then we have got to be willing to allow them to question us. We've got to be vulnerable. We've got to be accountable. And we've got to be ready to deal with those questions. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, if you stuck around this far, then I invite you to subscribe. We've got more videos like this coming out. And also, click that like button and feel free to share this so that others can see what's happening here. Thank you again for watching. And remember, allow your kids to question you. And feel free to question even the God of the universe.